Okay, well on.
All right, and welcome to Mythical Monster Investigations, where dreadedly we're going to be taking another look at dragons. Just one dragon this time, and this particular podcast is a bit of a challenge for us because Zed has pointed out, accurately so, that I've many times said that this should be a quick podcast, only for it to go on for like 2
3
hours.
hours later. Not actually, but you know what I mean.
Well, it's 2 hours, so you're only about an
yeah,
hour off.
yeah,
So.
not that far off.
Only an
Yeah.
hour.
Only an hour off, yeah.
Yes. So this one is my attempt to actually make a short podcast covering just one monster, and it should be quick. And basically, if I can't make this one quick, then I will concede that none of the podcasts that we do on mythical monsters are quick. So I will concede to that. But let's give it a shot. So with that, uh, I'm your host Archimage, along with my co-host.
Shut up, Fox.
And Zed.
And join us again for another look at dragons as we take a particular look at one that we did briefly cover, but didn't look that much into. So go ahead and switch slides. And that would be the Jaculus. Now, again, we did cover this in our dragons podcast looking at European dragons. And we briefly touched on it, but then we kind of moved on because there was a lot to cover in dragons. But I got some new information on this, and I wanted to kind of touch back on it. And for those who do remember it, the bottom picture is the only real medieval picture we have of this thing. It's supposed to be a very small mythical dragon, and in medieval times, as it's shown, it was often depicted with wings and legs. And it was known also as the javelin snake. In fact, its name, Jaculus, comes from javelin, meaning to be thrown. And this is because it would hurl itself through the air. And while it is an interesting medieval description, this particular creature actually comes from two earlier descriptions because the medieval loved to try to rediscover, the greatness of Rome and everything else. So this actually comes from two earlier descriptions. And we're going to be taking a look at these to kind of show what this creature may have been, which is what we do in most of our podcasts, but I found this one a bit interesting. So any questions so far?
Why do you have Pan up there?
Oh, because this was a creature supposed to be found in Greek forests, and Pan was the closest thing I could come to a representation of a Greek forest.
Okay.
So literally, that's just an aesthetic choice. It means nothing, but it does kind of play into the fact that the original description was from a Greek description. So simple. Zed, any questions?
I'm good.
Okay, go ahead and switch slides. And so we come to the first person to write about this, or at least the earliest description we have on record, comes from Pliny the Elder. And his description was famously, the Jaculus darts from the branches of trees, and it is not only to our feet that the serpent is formidable, for these fly through the air, even just as though they were hurled from an engine. That's Pliny the Elder. Now, Pliny the Elder was a Roman author, naturalist. Sorry, he wasn't Greek, he was Roman. I apologize. But he said, I believe that it was found in some of the Greek provinces. Anyway, he was a Roman author, a naturalist, a scientist, and a naval and army commander of the early Roman Empire. And he was also a friend of the Roman Emperor Vespasian. Now, Pliny wrote the Encyclopedia Naturalis Historia, or Natural History, which was a 37-work volume covering a vast array of topics of human knowledge and even the natural world, which is why this creature comes into play. We will not be going over that overly long book for obvious reasons, unless, Zed just wants me to absolutely make sure that I can never make a short podcast. So let's not do that.
No, I'm not that
Self-sabotaging.
sabotistic. Yeah, I'm not that self-sabotaging.
Yep. Or that much of a self-masochist.
Yeah.
There we go. So, but that's the description of Pliny the Elder. So, out of curiosity, you've heard the description, and you can, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see it on screen. What does this description give to you? Without thinking about the medieval picture we saw, what does the description only kind of give a mindset to?
Um, a flying, like a flying lizard or a flying squirrel or something like that.
Good. Zed?
Yeah, that
Same
all
thing?
sounds about right. Yeah. I mean, just given what I know of the animal kingdom itself.
Okay. Well, that's very good. And honestly, I think you're on the nose. So go ahead and switch sides. So, what we get from it, as you described, is we get a tree dwelling creature. Legs and wings are not specifically mentioned, and it launches itself from trees. Now, if you notice, it's not claimed to be venomous originally. That comes later on. So, a good explanation is the flying serpents, which are found mostly in southern Asia, actually. They are mildly venomous, but they're not venomous to humans. As in, if you get bit by one of these things, it's a pain, but you're probably going to survive unless you have a compromised immune system. So it's relatively harmless to humans. There's also the flying lizards or flying dragons, which possess a wing like membrane across the ribs to help them glide. These things are also completely harmless. Now, I did look this up, and Pliny the Elder did go to southern Asia with the Roman army. And that makes more sense because in the province he was located in, there are lots of vipers, but there are not, but none of the vipers are tree dwelling. So it's very unlikely that a snake that he would be more accustomed to could be one of these creatures. So personally, I think a flying snake or a flying lizard is actually a very good explanation for what he was seeing, especially these flying snakes, because these ones are bizarre. And we did touch on this in the Dragons podcast, but I'll say it again just for sake of argument. These are snakes that can actually flatten their bodies to like a ribbon and use that greater surface area to glide through the air from tree to tree. Pretty crazy, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, describing that as a flying snake, yeah, it definitely, again, flying serpent. And since the legs and wings were not specified, it makes sense. Any questions?
Not really.
No.
Yeah. So this is the part where it's like, okay, well, this is pretty big explanation. So why aren't we just ending this podcast here? Well, okay, so this is a good explanation for the first part, but then we get some discrepancy when we come to the second description. Go ahead and switch slides. The second description was given by Marcus Annaeus Lucanus, or in English, simply Lucan, which I'm going to call him Lucan because that's a lot easier. Now, he was a Roman poet and regarded as one of the outstanding figures in the Imperial Latin period and known for his epic Pharegila. Now, this man, I want to point out, would exaggerate various animals to highlight the destructive civil wars of his time. He was against the Imperial Roman, not the Imperial Roman army, but the Imperial Rome that Rome had become, and he had a desire to return to the Republic. And he described a far more violent Jaculus than his predecessor, Pliny the Elder. Go ahead and switch slides. So his version was, according to him, he was when he was marching when General Cato was marching with his army in Libya, and this is historical. There was such a person. The Jaculus were said to climb trees and lodge themselves with so much force, it literally pierced right through the soldier, killing him. So, in his version, the Jaculus did not kill by venom, but by blunt force, literally impaling the soldier with his head. So, yeah, that's quite a difference. Now, and this was specifically in Libya. Now, Libya does have a diverse array of snakes, including the Saharan horned viper, the Egyptian cobra, the desert black snake, and the sand snake. And pretty much so, they can all kill you. However, arboreal snakes are not actually indigenous to Libya. Arboreal snakes are tree dwelling snakes, basically. So they're not indigenous to Libya. While either these snakes can climb trees, it's not their main habitat. And I did look this up, which I would have been surprised if it came back, but there are no snakes that attack or kill their prey by impaling them. So we've got kind of a quandary here. What do y'all think?
I mean, so so we got the original guy believing that people were being killed by poison or venom.
Well, that's the thing. Pliny the Elder never specifically said that people were killed by them. He said they attacked. So it's unclear if he was actually saying they were dangerous or just saying they would kind of attack and sneak up on them because, many snakes will bite you, but they're not particularly venomous, so you'll be fine. But he didn't actually say it wasn't clear if people were dying from them.
No, for this one, I'm kind of just. Eh, I'm trying to think if there's any snakes that pierce you through the chest or
No, there are not. I looked this up.
that tries to impale you.
Not that I know of. And no extinct species I know of. Snakes are not known for impaling people.
And I was trying to not make a joke about impaling through the back door, and if a snake would do that.
I'll hold on to that thought. But no.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, no, none of that. So quite a quandary, right?
Yeah.
We see here two
Yeah.
very different descriptions, and this kind of confused me because they were both called the Jaculus, while like obviously kind of building up over this part. So, but why though the discrepancy? So looking into this, I think I have a possible solution, or maybe a probable one, but you guys can decide. Go ahead and switch slides. So what I found out that there are these things called Libya snakeskin spears. Now, these are a traditional Arab style spear, which can be seen on screen for those watching YouTube. They have a pointed leaf style blade, which are very good for piercing people. But here's the thing, the wooden shaft would bear a snake skin wrapped around it towards either the top or the bottom of the shaft, which would help with grip. And there was also a ceremonial bit to it as well. So here's the thing. As I said before, the Lucan was a poet more than, and he was known to exaggerate things to kind of highlight the nonsensical reality of his world with the imperialist mindset of the Roman Empire and the vast civil wars of trying to get one emperor to claim another and etc. So he has more of a history for exaggerating. So could it be that the Jaculus, which again got its name from the javelin, was actually describing a javelin or a spear being thrown with a snakeskin that could actually pierce soldiers? I'm asking. I'm not saying this absolutely. I'm saying that, like, could this be a good explanation? Did I lose you guys, or are you thinking?
Sorry, I had muted myself while I was thinking.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was thinking, how did the I was trying to think how often did the Greeks Because it was a Greek. It was a Greek. Was it
Romans.
Roman? Okay, with it being Roman, that's a little bit more common of an encounter with the Liberians. That they would know the snake. They would know Liberians who use snakeskin spears because they used Liberian mercenaries throughout their campaign in North Africa and Spain.
And especially if he's kind of talking against the imperial might of Rome of constant fights and constant conquering, especially since many of the Roman emperors this time would employ various mercenaries to fight their battles just because, you know, pure blood Roman soldiers were not always as plentiful when you're killing each other. Could this be a way of describing a creature attacking instead of just mercenaries?
Mm, Not enough telling just because there's two account and they both want to conflict with each other.
Yes, but but you can see my logic in this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that kind of brings me to the final slide, which go ahead and switch. Is could two things be true at once? And what I mean by that is that what I think might have happened, or in this case, with the medievals we're recording from these, or trying to make sense of these two different various accounts, is that Pliny the Elder probably described a real creature, flying serpents that going through the air, or flying lizards. I think flying serpents because he did describe it more serpentine, not mentioning legs. So I think he did see flying serpents, which would have been quite a sight, especially where he was from, where he'd be used to mostly poisonous vipers. So to see snakes suddenly flying through the air would be quite a sight. And he described them as such, which, if you've ever seen flying serpents fly, it is quite an impressive feat. And then later on, when we get into the more hazardous and upsetting imperial times of Rome when they're fighting one another to see who would be the next emperor all the time. We get a new historian, a more of a poet, so already known for going into more romantic hyperboles for his writings. We then get him having describe a event with Cato and this army, and more than likely a lot of their soldiers dying. And the snakeskin spears traveling through the air, the javelins, he decided to borrow from the Jaculus myth and describe a creature instead that was strong enough to not only fly through the air, but pierce through the soldiers themselves, kind of forming a kind of extending the myth with a weapon, turning it from a snake into a weapon. And all of it because, or to be fair, it could have just been because it was called Jaculus and these were using javelins that they mixed up the names. I doubt that. But it does seem like there's a correlation here. But I find it interesting that the one that comes after with the more gruesome one is the one that's more likely to exaggerate.
Mm, I mean, there's really not enough about the Jaculus.
No, there's not. That's what's frustrating. This is the most, and I think, and this is my explanation based off as Shadow R Fox is no doubt finding out the extremely frustratingly limited amount of information that I'm given.
I sent you an image in Discord of the Jaculus.
Yes, I saw it. I just wasn't going to mention it. That is a fun little thing um based off the medieval picture. And like seriously, that is the only medieval picture of the Jaculus. Like there is no other that's not modern day.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so that's my explanation though. What do you all think?
Uh, I mean, like I'm trying to just think of application, and the only thing I can remotely think of is just a sometime when you're walking through wooded areas and the snake is in a tree, it's not uncommon for them to dart towards a heat source, which would be your body. So
Yeah.
maybe it's just regular snakes going after people, and they're just not used to that type of snake coming down on them.
That could be an explanation too. And again, would make perfect sense. The impaling is what threw me off, which is why I actually didn't mention Lucan's report in the first Dragons podcast we did when we mentioned this, because I really didn't have a good explanation for it. But finding out about these snakeskin spears that were thrown in the areas of Libya where Lucan did describe these creatures living, I thought was a very, if nothing else, it's a very interesting coincidence if it is only a coincidence and not, the source of the discrepancy.
Yeah, for this one, I kind of don't have too many theories just because
There's just not a lot to it.
there's not enough about the bloody thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The more frustrating myths are the one there's just not much to it. Like it's been mentioned like all of 2 times throughout history. That we know of, to be fair.
Yeah, no. For this one, yeah, no, I kind of got nothing just because there's not that much to go off of.
Yeah, like you saw what I was working with. So personally, I think my real creature and mixed with snakeskin spear actually I think it holds some water. I think.
No, it does.
I mean, I don't have a better explanation, is what I should say. So if there's a better one, please, like by all means. Zed, what do you think?
No, I mean what we've discussed so far seems about right for what I would guess from it all.
Yeah, well, you both can at least see my logic behind this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, I think that is the best case scenario of the Jaculus. And with that, that's really all I have to say on this. Okay, time. How'd I do?
I think you're at 22 minutes. Let me get the actual 22 minutes, yeah.
Ha! All right, that leaves only one section left. And whether or not this goes over an hour now is entirely up to you, Zed.
Oh, right, Dragapult. Yeah, you mentioned snake that hurls itself or turns itself into a weapon, so this thing quite literally fires the younger versions of itself as missiles.
Right, get those babies to earn their keep.
Yes, actually.
And it's serpentine.
Yeah.
And yes, it is.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've heard of guerrilla warfare before, but baby warfare seems like a new low.
No, it's been done. Animal Kingdom do it all the time.
Yeah, the animal kingdom does a lot of screwed up stuff.
You mean logical stuff?
Have you seen the kind of things actual hedgehogs do?
Mm,
Do you know the kind
no.
of crap turtles do?
Depends which type.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so there's a lot of messed up. Do you know how messed up dolphins are?
Yes. I saw King of the Hill.
Ugh. I didn't watch the King of the Hill one, but man, dolphins dolphins are just like okay. Well, I'm not getting into that because if anyone's watching this, I don't need them to have nightmares. Ugh.
Mm.
Don't look up things about dolphins.
Oh, just look
They
up the King of the Hill episode with the dolphin.
I'll ask you after this podcast what happened with that, because again, I don't want to scare people, but yeah, do that. But
I can give a very brief. Um,
brief and non-traumatizing.
for the most part. Um,
All right.
basically, the main characters of the show, Hank Hill, get a birthday gift from his niece to swim with dolphins.
Is that the
Oh,
blonde girl?
mm-hmm, Luann.
Okay.
And basically um dolphins, both in the show and in real life, are very playful, and they are also very, without going traumatic, aggressive lovers
Yeah.
and passionate.
Yeah.
And it's very common for dolphins to let that passion go outward when swimming with people.
Yeah.
So cases you hear of dolphin drowning people, it's probably due to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Um
So it
Hank
did go that
doesn't
far.
he doesn't get drowned, but he definitely does get, quote, attacked.
So I'm thinking what happened to Julius Caesar in War of the Damned with Spartacus.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds about
but
right.
underwater.
Yeah. That sucks.
Yep.
Dolphins, man.
I mean, if it's any consolation, he unlike Caesar, he had his trunks up.
Yeah, no, that's good on him. Still.
Well,
But yeah.
yeah, I guess that it. Unless Zed got some little useful knowledge about Dragapult.
Not particularly.
Nothing
Any
compete with
PAL
that.
equivalent?
No, there's not a PAL equivalent.
All right. And with that, I think we've marked the single shortest episode of this series we've ever done.
Yeah. Just hit the 27-minute mark.
Awesome. I thought we wouldn't get below an hour, but we got below 30 minutes. All right, great. Don't expect many of these because the next one we do will probably be a lot longer. With that being said, join us next time when we'll look at, I don't even know. I'll figure that out later. Until then, have a good one. I hope you enjoyed this short look at mythical monsters.
See you next time.